Hey everybody, it's Jonny Bowden. I'm set up today to do a TV show on KATU in Portland. My friends in Portland are going to have me on, and usually I just get like a minute or two to talk about usually things that require more than a minute or two to really explain. So what I figured is, since I'm all set up for this, and since most of you can't watch me on local TV in Portland, I would actually talk about the things that they want me to talk about on TV today and kind of do a little bit more of an explanation of those things because I think they're really important. So the thing that they want to talk to me about is this. Everybody's gained weight during COVID, right? We're even calling it the quarantine 15. And people want to get back to healthy eating. But the information that's out there is very hard to decipher. Who are we really going to listen to? For example, the Dietary Guidelines for 2020 are going to come out soon, and they have an advisory committee. And the advisory committee just reported to the Dietary Guidelines people what they think we should do. And they omitted 10 years of research on low-carb diets. 10 years of research, of published studies showing how beneficial low-carb diets were for a variety of conditions. They did not look at any of that evidence. So you're going to believe the Dietary Guidelines? I'm not. I pay no attention to the Dietary Guidelines. So what is the average citizen supposed to do when all of these organizations are coming out with information that is supposed to guide you to getting back to healthy eating? Who do you believe? Who do you listen to? And that's really what they want to talk to me about on WKATU in Portland. And it's something that we should speak about as well. See, most of the information that we get from official organizations, the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, the Dietary Guidelines, it's a mixture of old stuff that is outdated and disproven and some stuff which actually makes sense, like eating lots of fruits and vegetables. That's kind of a no-brainer. But some of the old information, for example, tells us that saturated fat causes heart disease. Well, guess what? It doesn't. And the studies are there to show it. And they've been coming out since 2010. And they're all in my books. The book, The Great Cholesterol Myth, and the book, Living Low Carb. Both of them have all of these studies listed in the appendix. So these studies exist. Saturated fat does not cause heart disease. Cholesterol does not cause heart disease. So again, who are we going to listen to? So I have a couple of basic premises that I think would be useful to look at when we decide what information is bogus and what information is worth paying attention to. The first thing I always ask is, where are the studies? And more importantly, once you know what the studies are, who did them? Were they published? I have seen so much BS on the internet promoting scientific research that isn't scientific and isn't even research. There's some crappy thing going around on the internet now about measuring energy through some meter that's never been tested, and if you get the right frequencies, it will heal your body. It's all nonsense. It's made up. And when they say it's been studied scientifically, if you look a little more deeply, you find out that one guy studied it in his office. That's not a clinical study. So you want to find out, did the people selling you this do the study? Are they the only people who've ever researched this? Was that study published? Was it double-blinded? Was it a university study? Were the people who did it respected researchers, or did they find some broken down, disbarred scientist somewhere in another country that is willing to say that their crap works? These are the questions you need to ask. And sometimes even the people who are reporting the studies may sound very legitimate. I'm not going to say this on TV because I don't want a lawsuit, but I'm going to tell you that, for example, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Boy, doesn't that sound like a really good organization? Well, they're very nice people, but it's a vegan animal rights group masquerading as science. And guess what? The Physicians Committee on Responsible Medicine has never found a study that shows there's anything good about eating meat. What a surprise. So you want to look at what the agenda is of the people telling you this information. Is it really objective? Is there a selling agenda in there somewhere? And let me be clear. The drug companies fund most of the studies. It doesn't mean those studies are bad. Sometimes they're done very well. But they're very, very good at reporting the stuff they want you to know about and kind of hiding the stuff they don't. And I remember back in the day when bodybuilders, when I was really in the bodybuilding world and coaching people and working at Equinox, bodybuilders were really good. If they had a very weak body part like their calves, they learned all the poses to not show their calves. They didn't lie and say they had great calves. They just learned how to kind of disguise that and feature the things they were good at. Well, the drug companies are wonderful at that. So they'll do a study that shows that statin drugs, people who take statin drugs, there's 2 less heart attacks in the group that takes the statin drugs. But they'll kind of bury the fact that there are 2 more deaths from diabetes from the group that took the statin drug. So there's this all over the place. And you have to know that there has been good, published, verified research showing that when a person pays for a study or a company pays for a study, they're 5 times more likely to get the result that they would like to get. And that's true in the natural products industry as well. So you want to look at who did the study, what their agenda is. If there's anything beyond that agenda, it doesn't mean that if somebody's selling you something, it's not a good product. Peter Attia, for example, who's one of my kind of go-to guys, he is an investor in the Oura Ring. Well, the Oura Ring's the best sleep monitor I've ever seen. And the fact that he's an investor in it and that he talks about it doesn't make it not be a great sleep monitor. It's just you want to know that. You want to know if somebody's selling something and has the possibility of benefiting from the advice they're giving you, or if it's truly as objective as it can be in this kind of a situation. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, you want to be suspicious of too much focus on one ingredient. One thing that is like, this is the worst thing in the world and you have to avoid this at any... there's a lot of scapegoating in the food industry. Perfect example, I brought some oils along to show them on KATU to talk about the difference between like inflammatory oils that are bad for you and oils that are really good for you that may not have the reputation of being so good for you, such as butter and ghee and Malaysian palm oil. These are great oils, but they have saturated fat. Well, who cares? This unsaturated fat, canola oil and grapeseed oil and corn oil and sunflower oil and safflower oil, all the vegetable oils you've been told to eat so much of, they're all pro-inflammatory. They all contribute to every one of the metabolic diseases that we don't want to have, from diabetes to obesity to heart disease to metabolic syndrome. We don't need more inflammatory oils. We need oils that don't contribute to inflammation. Some of them even have positive things about them that really help your health. And Malaysian palm oil is one of them. Ghee is one of them. Extra virgin olive oil is one of them. And grass-fed butter is another one of those. These are great oils. Start making the shift to those things and stop looking at one ingredient as a poison, like saturated fat, which it's not. So that's number 2. And number 3 is, when in doubt, go to my basic go-to premise, which is that if food comes from the Jonny Bowden 4 food groups, it's okay to eat. And what are those 4 food groups? Food you could hunt for, fish for, gather off the ground like nuts, or pick off a tree like an apple. If you could hunt it, fish it, gather it, or pluck it, it is probably good for you. Those are the basic foods that we have been eating, the human genius has been eating since our first appearance on the planet Earth. And those are the foods that our bodies were meant to run on. So I gave some examples here. Fresh eggs and nuts and fruits and vegetables and berries and grass-fed meat and fish. These are the foods that sustain us. And if you want to know what information to believe, take a look at what the human genius has been eating for 2.4 million years. And it's food that you could hunt, fish, gather, or pluck. You cannot go wrong with that advice. This is Dr. Jonny Bowden. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please push the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next video.